Shows like Friends make living with the roommate look like a dream. When they're not sipping coffee at Central Perk, they were having fun in their respective apartments. Who wouldn't want to bond like Joey and Chandler and Rachel and Monica? There are so many stories of lifelong friendships that started as the ink dried on a lease, but that's not always the case. In fact, some of those dreams turn into nightmares, and those are the stories we are here to tell. So if you're living with your best friend, count yourself lucky. These are 10 roommate horror stories. Quick reminder, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you can receive our new video notifications. There isn't a chance in hell that we can talk about roommate horror stories without giving tribute to single white female. The classic 90s movie saw Hetty Carlson, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, become insanely jealous of her roommate Allie Jones, played by Bridget Fonda. Hetty not only started borrowing Allie's clothes, but she ended up borrowing her entire look. If you've seen the movie, you know things only go downhill from there. We already know what you're thinking. That's just a movie. Yeah, that's what you think. There are plenty of stories of roommates who get jealous and wreak havoc on the lives they envy. Take a woman in Chicago. We'll call her Debbie. After a year of having a great time with her roommate, we'll call Laura, she met John, and the two fell in love. Laura was not happy to be the only single lady in the apartment, and she did everything she could to break the two apart, up to and including making a move on John. While Debbie and Laura didn't last, we're happy to say that Debbie and John are still going strong. Ha! Take that, Laura. Ha! We've all had a friend or roommate borrow something without our permission, you know, like a shirt or a jacket. You go to put it on and there's a stain or the smell of your roommate's perfume on it. They typically say they're sorry, we forgive them, and life goes on. Well, life doesn't always have a storybook ending. When things keep somehow ending up in your roommate's room and they can't explain how it happened, well, you know you have a problem. It's bad enough when you catch a roommate stealing clothes, but one guy caught his roommate stealing his toothbrush.
France.
Yoink!
Yoink!
When confronted, the roommate didn't deny it, but he also didn't know what the big deal was. Seriously, what kind of person doesn't think it's a big deal to steal someone else's toothbrush and use it? This guy's probably changed his mind when his roommate explained that not only was it gross, but it was actually the toothbrush that he used to clean his shoes. This little crime might not have been big enough for the law, but it is certainly big enough for our friend Karma.
Stop it. Get some help.
No one is as neat and clean as Monica Geller, but that doesn't mean a person has to go in the complete opposite direction. Whether it's leaving dishes piled up in the sink or takeout boxes in the refrigerator for days on end, nothing is as obnoxious as a roommate who won't clean up after themselves. Take the story of a roommate who used to eat all of her meals in her room. That doesn't seem like a big deal, except for the fact that when she was finished, she would just put the dirty dishes and containers under her bed. To make things worse, she didn't always finish her meals, which means there were leftovers on the plate. Her favorite food was sausage and cheese from Trader Joe's. One can only imagine the smell that came out of that room. We all like to have a good time with our partners, and sure, if things are going right, well, sometimes we make a little more noise than we mean to. When we head to breakfast the next morning, we get a knowing look from our roommate who, with a smile, simply asks, "Have fun last night?" Most people take the subtle note and make sure to be a little more quiet next time. Unfortunately, we don't always have roommates who do what most people do. Instead, they seem to double down. Take the story of one woman whose roommate would regularly have extremely loud sex. On her birthday, she decided to have an orgy with random people from Tinder. 3 of them lived in a 3-bedroom. And when she and her other roommate came home from a night out, they walked in to porn on full blast and a fully naked girl who they ended up taking care of throwing up in a bathroom. We're all for supporting the arts, but home porn without everyone's consent is pushing it. We already talked about the slob, but there are some roommates that go beyond messy and straight to utterly disgusting. We're not talking about dishes in the sink anymore, folks. We have gone nuclear. During one woman's freshman year of college, she roomed with a really shy girl who kept to herself and was just sort of odd. After a couple of months, everyone noticed that their room started to have the weirdest smell. She tried to drop hints at her roommate, but she didn't seem to notice, so it was time to investigate. While her roommate was in class, she and her friends looked through the whole room and finally looked through the roommate's desk. They opened the bottom drawer to find that it was completely full of used, old, bloody tampons and pads. There's not enough baby powder in the world to mask that smell. You move in with someone and think that everything is going fine. Then one morning, you see a new face at the breakfast table that you have not seen before. Your roommate pops around the corner and introduces you to their partner. No big deal, you think? Your partner spends the night at your place once in a while, right? Well, go ahead and sit back because this is different. Because their partner doesn't just stay a night here or there, they move right on in. One woman's roommate had her boyfriend move in thinking she wouldn't notice. She worked as a server and would keep large amount of cash in a lockbox in her room, and the roommate's boyfriend would steal money from her. She finally kicked them out and figured that would be the end of it. Wrong. She came home to destruction. They wiped boogers all over the wall, dumped pizzas under the couch, dumped Chinese food on the floor, and peed in the ice cube trays, beverages, and shampoo bottles. Imagine the cleanup on that one. This may not seem like a big deal. I mean, who doesn't love a good pet? They provide companionship and comfort and unconditional love. Well, there could be one problem. What if your roommate brings home a pet without your consent or knowledge? We'll tell you what, it can lead to an uncomfortable situation. Take the story of a guy who went out of town and his female roommate bought a dog without telling him. Imagine his surprise when he came home to find not just a dog in their apartment, but a dog that hated men. He was cornered in his own apartment for about 30 minutes waiting for his roommate to finally come home. Needless to say, these roommates parted ways shortly after. If you're not hosting a party at your place once in a while, then what are you doing with your life? We all love a good party, and sometimes hosting it can be the best part. That is, as long as you and your roommate agree on it and it doesn't get out of control. Those simple rules weren't followed. In our next example of rude behavior, during football season, one guy's roommate decided that because his team had won when he had a little get-together, that he had to keep it going. We understand the respect that must be given to not jinxing your home team, but there has to be some limits. After the fourth party in just as many weeks, imagine coming home from work several hours after the football game has ended only to find several extremely intoxicated people lying around your home. You just want to go to bed and get away from it all, right? Well, that would be hard to do if you walked in and found another drunk person not only passed out on your bed, but laying in his own vomit. Ugh. Whether you're studying, writing a paper, or doing some work from home, we all like to have a little music on in the background. Nothing too loud, just something to drown out the background noise that sometimes takes you off track. Well, let us welcome you to a particular version of hell. This woman had a roommate who would not only study to the soft and relaxing sounds to Disney's It's a Small World After All, not songs like that, only that song. That means it was put on repeat for hours. If that weren't bad enough, this roommate refused to wear headphones, which meant it not only played for hours, but it played for hours loudly on the house speakers. Sure, it's hell, but at least we all know the words. We've made it to our #1 roommate horror story. We think you'll agree that all of these people should have gotten kicked out, but this one takes the cake. When it comes to the financials of being roommates, it really shouldn't be that difficult to figure out. You pay half the rent plus utilities, and they pay half the rent plus utilities. It's easy enough, right? Wrong. The basic foundation of rent and utilities should be crystal clear. We'd like to introduce you to the boyfriend that decided to itemize his time in the apartment. He kept track of how much time he spent in the apartment and the amount of time he used the electricity. Then, when rent was due, he paid what he thought would be a fair amount.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
When he was told that things didn't work that way and that he would be responsible for half of everything, he refused to pay. This behavior went on for the entire term of the lease, and the girlfriend had to get a second job just to pay the difference. To get her revenge, the girlfriend not only broke up with him, but threw out all of his stuff after signing a new lease and keeping him off of it. And there you have it. What roommate horror stories do you have that you'd like to share? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, like, share, and subscribe, and be sure to check back next time to find out what else needs to be ranked.